So I'm low key lazy to like find gameplay. So I'm just gonna use this video to give you some, well, my advice and my logic. Kind of like a sneak peek of my decision making. A little bit, but more so specifically, how do I use each of these talents? Now, I do want to make a disclaimer. My gameplay when I play Drogoz and is much different than any other players. In fact, if you remember a few episodes ago, I made a video called Infernal Drogoz Strats. It's which I was focusing on using Wormjet as an aggressive maneuver and not really so much to be like a little poke. How I see Drogoz is that you have either a passive dragon or an aggressive dragon. And this goes with each of those talents. And one is better than the other. And then on top of that, you have one that specializes in aim and one that specializes in utility. So let me show you what I mean. If we go through most of my videos, most of the time I run combustible. This is frankly my favorite talent out of Drogoz kit and the one I use the most. I use all three of them, and I have videos of me using all three talents. Just I feel like combustible has the most utility needed. Specifically, it does an additional 300 damage, which by normally speaking, it's 900, right? It's 900, and additional 300 makes it 1200. Now, in terms of builds, I have really two builds. I want to make a third one, specifically for Wormjets, and I could do that in just a little bit. But that is usually the build I like the most, and I'm the only person going to find who actually uses lung capacity to a high degree. And because the fact that you can get group on it, and the really interesting thing about the spit is that it works on entities. I can't really show what I mean by that, but what I mean by entities, I'm talking about yin clones. And yin clones and sometimes grok totems, but that's mostly for card procs, and I get to that in just a little bit. Normally for combustible, you generally always want to buy Haven. Most of the time you're going to go against a lot of counters, so Haven works. You can buy Marabus or Chronos, that's completely up to you. I like to go Death Hands on Drogoz and Wrecker, especially they have a shield heavy comp. I'll just get Chronos so I can get cooldowns reset. And then your last one, generally a filler. Bloodbath, Wrecker, Veteran, Healing, Marabus, just whatever. But in my eyes, these three are the staple for any Drogoz. Build, gameplay, whatever. These are your staple.
Impenetrable.
So combustible is pretty cool. Is that if you've seen my videos, it knocks it back, and it does that 300 damage over a period of 2 seconds. But also, what we've seen from my videos is that with Drogoz, his spit gives bonus damage. So if I shoot his Victor, it's 850. If I spit on him and shoot again, it's 1105. And the nice thing about the spit is that it works for everybody. So all your teammates will basically get the additional 20% damage when it hits someone. I believe it's 20%. Yeah. It's just weakens, but more specifically, it's like 15-20% bonus damage when you spit on them. And especially if you run this with Fusillade, it goes crazy. So 1063, 1381. You can 2-tap almost any damage. Boom, boom. Like, yeah, literally, boom, boom. You can 2-tap any damage and any flank in the game. Another cool thing you can do with spits is that you can do a cool combo that's kind of hard to do and kind of hard to pull off. So normally when you explode a spit, you want to shoot directly at it. However, there's two combos you can do with this about the explosion. Well, you should know that Drogoz's explosion radius does proc. Most famously, you got what Helvian would call fair and balanced, where you just spit at a target, and instead of shooting the spit, I'm gonna shoot next to it. And you see, what you saw is that the AoE of my spit actually triggered what AoE of my salvo. And you can see this by if I shoot the little circle, that's gonna be around. But this little circle, that little spear of fire, that is usually the radius. And if we put a card that expands this radius, so let me just get my cooldown back up. It is significantly bigger. So we're gonna use, this is the card I like to run. And I get to why this build is super cool later on. So the combo, just spit, aim to the side, and you do so much damage. Now there's a harder combo you can do. So your direct fire also procs. So if you time your spit above them, you do, in this case, 900 damage plus, what is it, 1300? 1063. 900 plus 1063. That's 969. That's almost 2000 damage. Pair this with Trigger Sync. Like Trigger Sync level 3. Let me make sure I get my Trigger Sync proc. It literally one-shots. And if you're good enough on Drogoz, you can do it as you fall. Which goes to another tactic you can do with your fire spit, is tracing. So essentially you spit and you follow, then shoot. It's great when you're trying to go aggressive. So like if I'm trying to dive into the team, I usually spit and you just snowball. Because now that person you're chasing is low and you get the kill quickly. And also because they're close quarters, you have a very high chance of finishing the kill. Another thing you can do with Drogoz about the spit, especially with combustible, is that your knockback actually kind of works. So if I use combustible and I do the same strategy, not only do they get the 4 damage, but because I salvoed and I make sure my last salvo rocket procs the combustible spit, it maximizes the amount of damage and value you get from salvo. For example, they got dealt with max damage, so I can kill them. He was 1 HP. Another thing that is a cool tech with Drogoz is his ultimate. So how his ultimate works is that it's your view model has to have contact with your target. So I can aim here where your third is a first person view model, not your third person view model. The third person is different because when I'm not that. But ideally, you want to collide your hitboxes. Drogoz's hitboxes on his right side is actually very close. So like if I have these cat spots, and I know, you can see where the hitbox is. It's not the rocket itself, but it's actually the hand. So great job on high res. I'm making sure it makes sense. So you have to be closer to have a land. what most people don't know is that it works if they hit you from underneath. So if you ever seen me play against a Victor in a past video, or a Fernando, sorry, and I'm trying to bait a Fernando ultimate, generally what I'm doing, I wiggle to try to bait the Fernando ultimate. And because with Drogoz, be able to cancel your ultimate by pressing E, I'm like here, Fernando ult, fly up, thrust away. Right. And you get 30% back, by the way. You get 30% back. Then cancel. So wiggle above. And honestly, it's my best advice. Like, if you're using your ultimate, you want to move around very quickly with Drogoz ultimate. You want to keep moving. You want to keep moving. Kind of like an Eevee. Kind of like what you do in Eevee. When you move around with your fly. Right. Never get reset. Just generally move around. I want to do the exact same thing with Drogoz. And then lastly, just for this video, I'm going to talk about why I love this build. So, weird thing about Drogoz's cards is this right here. Every time it hits an enemy with its rockets. Now, I talked about earlier that this includes entities. Oddly enough, Yin clones and Grok totems count as entities. So, if you're going against a Yin and a Grok, and there's like little shields, like you're not going against a Makoa half shell, let's say you're going against like a Nyx or an Anara. Deployables count as entities. Any deployable. Don't know why, but it's the case. So I can literally farm with Chronos 3 and get free cooldowns. Even on a single target, this build on one target you get 7 seconds off. Right. On 2 targets, you get 12 seconds. Right. So let's try this again. For 2 targets, 20-second cooldown with Chronos 3, you get 15 seconds off. On 3 targets, almost instant reset. Almost. And notice how I'm spanning. You have to span your salvo rockets because it's your total rockets, not just a single rocket. So I'm going to try to get a full reset here. It's harder to do. But generally, you want to span your rockets to get your reset value. Or you can just place the rockets into one area. See, even that counted, and I got my full reset. That's why I love this build. And the nice thing about this build is that it also comes with a self-heal. So I heal every time. More specifically, if you take a look at the build, I heal for 140 for each enemy. So 140 per rocket. 6 rockets. If one of my salvo rockets lands, 140, 140, 560 healing. You get 6 of those. 5, 6 times 6 is 3,000. So this alone on cauterize, I get maximum health. I full heal. You just straight up full heal. And I can do it again. Not only do I full heal, I get a bunch of kills. And it stacks with lifesteal. It stacks with lifesteal, and it doesn't get any diminishing returns. Right. So if I go this build, I can't undo my purchases, but you just get a lot of healing. But the issue is that this build is very situational. You gotta make sure you don't have like a lot of shields, because it won't work in shields. But if you have like a Grok or a Ying, and you have a generally close quarters map, this build works. Or especially if we're going against like a Yagoroth or a point center team, this build will work. Just gotta make sure you have deft hands to pair with your Chronos so you get that cycle going. Additionally, my preferred combustible build is here. You can change it. You can add, like, instead of health for spit, you can add normal HP. You can change the values. You can take away this to add into this, so you fly more. Or a one little mixture of between tanking and flying with combustible. You can run this build. If I do another one of these and you guys want more of these Drogoz advice, I can do a whole episode just on worm jets, because there is a lot. There's a lot you can do with worm jets. Enjoy.